will be led by Councilmember Ron Washington.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Would you please come with me and let's do a moment of silence, please. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the Murfreesboro City Council meeting, April the 26th, 2012. Council members, we have a special guest. I'd like to recognize former council member and former city manager, Mr. Roger Haley, is in the audience tonight. Thank you for being here, Mr. Haley. And we'll get right into our agenda. Our first item is our consent agenda. Council members, you have a copy of your consent agenda in your package. If you would like to discuss anything on that consent agenda, we'll do that at this time. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Galley?
Aye.
Ms. Gels-Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher?
Aye. Next, consider for passage on second reading an ordinance rezoning an area in the GDO1 along Robert Rose Drive to Planned Unit Development PUD District and remain in the GDO1.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Galley?
Aye.
Ms. Gels-Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland?
No.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher?
Aye. Next, we have several public hearings, and the first one is we will conduct a public hearing to consider a certificate of compliance from Michelle Lineberry at Victory Village Liquor and Wine, 4167 Franklin Road, Suite 4-A5. We'll hold a public hearing to do that. At this time, I would like to, Ms. Wright, are there any comments you'd like to make before we do that?
I would like to mention this is a location that already exists. It is a new owner proposed for that location.
Okay, great. Well, at this time, we will open the public hearing and ask anyone wishing to speak for or against this matter, please come to the podium and give us your name and address. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, and we will consider a motion for that.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Galley?
Aye.
Ms. Gels-Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher?
Aye. Next, we're pursuant to Resolution 12-OZ-R-08, adopted by the City Council on March 15, 2012. We are to conduct a public hearing to consider rezoning approximately 93.67 acres located along Kimbrough Road from Planned Unit Development PUD District to Residential Single Family 8 RS8 District, approximately 68.67 acres, and Residential Multifamily 16 RM16 District, approximately 25 acres. Wilson Banking Trust is the applicant. The notice of the public hearing was published in the April the 8th, 2012 issue of the local newspaper. Welcome, Ms. Seeley.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Bratcher and City Council members. The second public hearing this evening is for property that's located just south of Kimbrough Road. This portion of Kimbrough Road will be renamed to Veterans Parkway as a portion of the road which the city is improving to 5-lane street. And so it's located just to the south of that property. The property is currently zoned PUD, Planned Unit District, and allows a mixed-use development that we refer to as Indigo. The Indigo PUD allows some commercial aspects nearer to Kimbrough Road, future Veterans Parkway, and some high-density residential on the remaining property. The properties to the south and to the east are in the unincorporated area of Rutherford County. Properties that are contiguous to this property along the west are zones RS15 and PRD. RS15 Single Family Residential District and PRD is Planned Residential District. To the north, some of the properties are within city limits and some are in the unincorporated area. Those within city limits are zoned PRD, Planned Residential District, and those in the unincorporated area are zoned R15. The property, as I mentioned, was zoned PUD in very early 2008 to allow the mixed-use development. Since that time, ownership has changed. The bank now owns the property, and there's no serious likelihood that this property can ever develop under the current plan. The bank wishes to market the property and to be able to sell it. So their request is, as you read, Mr. Vice Mayor Bratcher, is to rezone 93.6 acres from PUD. They'd like to zone 68.67 acres to RS8, which is single-family residential district, would allow single-family detached houses by right on lots that are 8,000 square feet or more in size, and also to zone 25 acres to RM16, which is multifamily residential district. That RM16 district would allow single-family detached houses, and in addition to that, they would allow multifamily houses, so what we see as apartment complexes. And that 16 stands for the density. 16 units per acre is permitted in the RM16 zone. The property does have some limiting factors on it that will affect the future development. Sewer capacity will limit the amount of dwelling units that can be reached on this property, as will the topography. There's some poor soil conditions, and that will have to be designed for when the plan, if you approve this rezoning, when the plans come before Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did recommend approval unanimously. There were 4 members present the evening of the public hearing. If you have any questions about this matter, I'd be glad to answer them either before or after the public hearing.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Ms. Seeley before we open the public hearing? Thank you. At this time, we will open the public hearing and ask anyone here wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium and give us your name and address. Anyone at all? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Next, consider for passage on first reading an ordinance to rezone the area located along Kimbrough Road to residential single-family 8 RS8 district and residential multifamily 16 RM16 district.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher?
Aye. Next, pursuant to Resolution 12-OZ-R-09, adopted by the City Council on March 15, 2012, we are to conduct a public hearing to consider rezoning approximately 86.35 acres located along Warrior Drive from Planned Commercial Development, PCD District, approximately 31.02 acres, and single-family residential 15, RS15 District, approximately 55.33 acres, to Highway Commercial CH District. Wendell Atkinson is the applicant. Notice of the public hearing was published in the April 8, 2012 issue of the local newspaper. Welcome again, Ms. Seeley.
Thank you again, Vice Mayor and Council members. Our second public hearing this evening is to consider zoning properties that are located along the eastern side of Warrior Drive from their current PCD and RS15 zones to CH, Highway Commercial District. You can see in the maps that the area is shaded both orange and blue on the maps. You may notice that there's a slight change in acreage on the agenda as there are in the materials that I gave you, the staff comments, and that's because the Planning Commission initially studied a larger area and then took some area out, so the acreage that Vice Mayor Bratcher read is correct. This is 86.35 acres along the eastern side of Warrior Drive, which 31.2 acres is zoned PCD, and that's to be proposed to be zoned to CH, and 55.3 acres is zoned RS15 to be proposed CH as well. The properties are located along Interstate 24, and you can see that running parallel to the properties just north of Riverdale High School. The properties across Warrior Drive along the eastern side are zoned CH, Highway Commercial District, RM16, Multifamily Residential District, and the properties to the south and southwest are zoned RS15, Single Family Residential District. The properties zoned PCD, there are 2 separate PCD properties, were zoned such in 2001. One was for a landscape nursery and garden center. The second was for a golf training facility. The plans for both these PCDs fell through, and there is no likelihood that they will be constructed according to the plans. And we did receive a request from some of the property owners in the area to change the zoning. Planning Commission looked at a larger area and made a recommendation to rezone the properties that are on the map that you have before you. So they studied larger area, considered annexing the property, or not annexing, it's already in the city, considered zoning the property that's located just between the subject area and New Salem Highway, but withdrew that after having the public hearing. So what you see in the orange and blue areas are what's before you today. There were 4 members present that evening. They all voted unanimously to approve this zoning change as presented to you. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them either before or after the public hearing.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Ms. Seeley, before we open the public hearing concerning this property? It's a rezoning request. Thank you, Ms. Seeley.
You're welcome.
At this time, we will open the public hearing, and I'll ask anyone here wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come to the podium and give us your name and address. Anyone wishing to speak? If not, I will close the public hearing. Next, consider for passage on first reading an ordinance to rezone an area located along Warrior Drive to Highway Commercial CH District.
And again, this does leave out the Dement property, just as we discussed at the Planning Commission, correct?
Yes, sir, it does.
With that, I would move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gilly?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland? Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher?
Aye. Next, pursuant to Resolution 12-OZ-R-10, adopted by the City Council on March the 29th, 2012, we are to conduct a public hearing to consider rezoning approximately 5.3 acres along South Church Street from Planned Commercial Development, PCD District, to Commercial Fringe, CF District. Ken Knuckles is the applicant, and a notice of the public hearing was published in the April the 8th, 2012 issue of our local newspaper. Welcome again, Ms. Seeley.
Thank you again, and for the last time, thank you, Vice Mayor Bratcher. It's been a pleasure. This third public hearing that we have coming from Planning Commission is to consider rezoning 3 parcels located along the eastern side of South Church Street or Highway 231. The properties are zoned PCD, Planned Commercial District, and I guess you're noticing a pattern of what I bring to you, or what Planning Commission is bringing to you, and what I'm representing from them. But we have, this is again is another property that was zoned PCD. That plan has not developed and has not come to fruition. The property owners have gotten some interest in somebody developing a portion of this property. However, that development plan is not and cannot be consistent with the currently approved PCD, Planned Commercial District. So the owners have made an application to rezone these 3 parcels to CF, Commercial Fringe District, or Fringe Commercial District. The CF zone would permit the proposed uses, but it's not our most intense commercial zone. CH would allow more uses. So they made an application to CF because it would allow the uses they need, and it's not not our most permissive commercial zone. Also, that CF zone is what the property had been zoned in the past, and it's also what the properties to the north and south along South Church Street are zoned. The properties that are contiguous with the subject area to the east are zoned PRD and are part of a developed single-family subdivision. Just across South Church Street are the Kroger Shopping Center, the Kroger and Iron Gate, Zone CH, and some various outparcels. You're probably familiar with the area. The Planning Commission, or the applicants did hold a neighborhood meeting for this property, in which staff did attend, and then, of course, the Planning Commission held a public hearing, as they do for all items such as this. The night of the public hearing, there were 4 members present. 3 voted to change the zoning from PCD to CF, and 1 member voted no. So the motion did pass, I believe. There was some additional meetings after that with some of the concerned neighbors, and there were some concerns that, from my knowledge, have been addressed since then. But so the recommendation from Planning Commission is to approve the zoning change from PCD to CF. If you have any questions about this, I'd be glad to answer them either before or after the public hearing.
Okay. Are there any questions, Ms. Seeley, before we open the public hearing? Thank you, Ms. Seeley, for a great job.
Thank you.
At this time, we will open the public hearing. I'll ask anyone wishing to speak for or against this, please come to the podium and give us your name and address. Anyone at all? If not, we will close the public hearing, and next we will consider for passage on first reading an ordinance to rezone an area located along South Church Street to Commercial Fringe, CF District.
So moved.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gelli.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland. Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher.
Aye. Next, we consider for adoption Resolution 12-R-04, approving applying for the fiscal year 2012 of the Everett Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, JAG Program Award for 2011 through 2015, designating a representative for such grant and approving entry into an interlocal agreement between Rutherford County and the City of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, for the fiscal year 2012 Everett Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, JAG Program Award, in the amount of $62,626. Ms. McGannon?
Vice Mayor Bratcher and members of the council, you will recall having seen similar resolutions in prior years. This is a federal grant program to assist local law enforcement, and the county and the city have taken advantage over it numerous years. Each year we're required to enter into an agreement as to how the funds will be shared and to appoint someone to serve as the administrator of that fund and make the application. And so the resolution before you reflects the agreement that the county and the city have reached to split the money evenly, to designate the city as the one to administer the grant application process, and to appoint Kyle Evans, our public information officer, as the individual who would handle those paperwork requirements. Attached to the resolution is the form of the interlocal agreement that would be used to implement this if the council approves it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. McGannon. I think Mr. McFarland has a question.
Is this the grant that Major last year filled out for years and years? And yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think this is the first one that's come across that his name has not been on that.
It is.
Very astute, yes.
Yeah. And the reason I remember that was really the first thing that he brought when I was first on the council. He was the first person I really met with that he came through, so sort of bittersweet seeing this come across without his name on it. And I know he's probably sitting at home watching this, so we want to say thank you for all the years of service.
Absolutely.
You really think he's watching this?
Probably not. Makes us, feel like that.
We want to believe he is.
Yeah, that he's watching.
We'll believe it.
Are there any other questions to Ms. McGannon? I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gelli.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is our beer permits, and I know we have two that I see that have been laid on our desk. Are there any other ones, Ms. Wright?
No, these are the only two tonight, and I actually got these from the Codes Department today. One is a new wholesaler that's going to go in at 730A Middle Tennessee Boulevard, along with the other wholesaler we recently passed. And the other one is a convenience store ownership change at 2568 South Church Street. And both of the applications have met our requirements.
All righty. Any questions, Ms. Wright? Not, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve these permits. Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gelli.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher.
Aye. Next is to consider the payment of the statements, and you have a new list of statements that's been placed on your desk tonight. I'll give you a second to look over those, and then we'll entertain a motion.
Move we pay the bills.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, Ms. Wright.
Mr. Gelli.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bratcher.
Aye. Next is the boards and commission appointments. We'll wait for the mayor to get back and do that. We have other business coming before the staff or the city council.
Did not have anything from staff.
Okay.
I would like to say something, Vice Mayor
Okay.
Ratchet. I would like to say that it's been a pleasure these last 2 years working with you, sitting next to you. Here again, you are the last of the originals that served with my dad, and you sat next to my dad, and you sat next to my mom, and you sat next to me. So you made history, sitting next to 3 generations. And I just want to say I'm going to miss you, and I wish you Godspeed, and just enjoy life.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure. I do have a statement. I would like to make a few comments, and I'll let any other council members have anything to say if they want to. That would be great, but not.
I don't think you want them. They got their-
I know Mayor Bragg is going to do something, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Put the picture back up for us.
Oh, yeah, that was in 1988. That handsome young guy on the left is me, and then beside Mary Huda, and that's Councilmember Roger Haley, and then Councilman Richard Reeves, and Ms. Scales, and John Pittard, and Mayor Joe B. Jackson.
Wow.
So that goes back a few years. And that was in the old City Hall, where the fire administration is at present. So that goes back a couple of days. So. It's interesting. That's an interesting picture. So thank you for putting that up. That brings back a lot of memories. I just want to say, council members, as you're all aware, this is my final meeting, and I just like to take a second to say thank you to the citizens of Murfreesboro. For your support for me over the past 24 years. It's been a pleasure, and it's truly been a blessing for allowing me to represent the citizens of Murfreesboro for the past 24 years. And I want to say to the staff and to all the people here at City Hall and to all the city employees of Murfreesboro that I just want to say thank you for your hard work and your dedication and to your service to our citizens. What you do on a daily basis far exceeds anything that I've done. So you do it every day, and I really appreciate your hard work and what you do for the people of Murfreesboro. I've had the honor to serve with the city's finest elected officials. I served with Mayor Joe B. Jackson, have you seen, and Mayor Richard Reeves, and our Mayor Tommy Bragg. I've also had the honor of serving with all the ladies who have been on the Murfreesboro City Council in the past. I served on this council with Miss Mary Huda, Mary Scales, your mom, and Beth O'Brien, and now Madeline. It's been a pleasure to serve with you ladies. And I know a lot of you have watched me grow up here on the council, and I've learned from a lot of good leaders that we've had in the past, people like John Pittard and Kevin Wax and Woody Robinson and Jack Ross and David Everett, and I can go on. I probably miss a bunch, but it's been a pleasure to serve with all these different individuals that the citizens have elected, and we've all been blessed by their service. And finally, it's been an honor to serve with you council members here. It's been really a great, y'all, I think Murfreesboro, I know I'll leave Murfreesboro in good hands with this council. Y'all do a great job, and I want to congratulate Mr. Smotherman and welcome him, and I'd ask you that you all work together and continue to make Murfreesboro the best it can be. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of your life. I really appreciate it. Any other business? If not, we're adjourned.